Ladies and gentlemen, Steve Jobs.
Good luck.
Good morning.
Nice chair.
Yeah, pretty good, huh? So first of all, thank you for coming.
Thank you for inviting me.
You're not a habitué of these conferences, and so we really appreciate you being here. You were there at the beginning of the digital personal computer revolution. You and Steve Wozniak developed what was the first really successful personal computer for the mass market, and that was 26 years ago, I think.
77.
This spring.
Apple II.
And you've stayed with it all this time in different ways, different formats. You run the most digital movie studio there is with Pixar, and I have to say that they have a new movie coming out in a couple of days. But where do you think we are in the arc of this story of the PC, the internet, the whole digital deal?
Well, the personal computer has been a pretty amazing thing in that it's morphed into these different things over the years and the decades. So first it was a hobbyist tool, and the reason the Apple II was successful was because we saw that for every hardware hobbyist that wanted to put a hardware kit together, there were thousands of software hobbyists that didn't know how to do that, didn't have soldering irons, but wanted to mess with software. And so we sold really the first ready-to-go personal computer. And that's what it was for the early days. And then Bricklin and Frankston.
Who's
Bob
here?
Frankston is here. I know, I saw him last night. Invented the first spreadsheet. And that kicked off something entirely new. And before long, the personal computer was being welcomed into business, and the whole productivity, the age of productivity began, and that's what really fueled a lot of the growth. But then, as the personal computer sort of saturated that particular function, people were speaking of its plateau and even its demise in the early 90s. The internet came along, and all of a sudden, the next great age of the personal computer started. And everyone replaced their personal computers with faster ones that could run these new web browsers, and everybody got on the internet, and the industry was very healthy for a while. And then, you know, starting early in this decade, that had plateaued, and everyone was saying the personal computer would past its prime. But we feel very strongly at Apple that there's a third great age of the personal computer coming, and it's where the personal computer becomes sort of your digital hub. And we articulated this, 3 years ago. And a lot of people have said the same words since then, but hardly anybody's delivered on it. But it's slowly starting to happen. I think we've tried to deliver on that as well. And people say, well, what's that mean? And how many of you have a digital camera? Right. Well, you can't do anything with a digital camera without a personal computer. There's nothing to do with it. I mean, you look at the pictures on the tiny little display on the camera, that's about it. So your pictures are in your computer now. Anyone under 25, their entire music library is in their personal computer now. It's not in CDs in some bookshelf in their living room. It's on their personal computer, and hopefully on their iPod. And so it's becoming the hub for your photography, your movies, your music, obviously, and it's really it's the #1 high-speed connection you have to the outside world in terms of data. So I think it's starting to become integral to our digital lifestyle.
And you think it'll always remain there at the hub, or do you think, there's perennial talk about, well, the television will be a hub or a point of contact with your digital stuff. Things like the iPod, he makes a music player. Do you guys know that? The iPod. Why couldn't that have its own Wi-Fi connection to the internet and not require you to use the computer?
Well, it can, but a personal computer, I mean, at its very basics, it's got a really big hard drive in it. It's got a really big display. It's got a really big keyboard, and it's got a really fat pipe to the internet. And it's got a reasonable processor in it that can run really big applications. So the iPod might be great and holds all your music, but we see it more as a satellite device because you couldn't really do a music store on it, as an example, because the music store needs just more screen real estate, and these things fight each other. So if you want a compact thing you can put in your pocket, unless there's a breakthrough in foldable displays over time or something like that, it's going to be hard to really browse a music store and find the music you want on the iPod itself, even if it has an internet connection.
So since you've been back at Apple, it's been about, I think, what, 6 years? Not 97 you came back?
6 years this 4th of July.
You've had quite a few hit products. You've gotten lots of critical praise, not only in terms of the Mac, but the iPod also being generally regarded as by far the best music player. But the market share for Apple, and there's a whole history of reasons why Apple doesn't dominate the field, and we won't go over that, but the market share for Apple has not really increased dramatically. So why? You're doing great products. You're much more price competitive. In some cases, in my research, you're actually priced more aggressively than a Windows counterpart in some of your models. How come you're not doubling your market share or whatever?
Well, we ask ourselves that a lot. If you get a little surgical about it, what you see is that the markets that we serve many markets, but the three primary ones are consumer, education, and the creative professional market. The problem that we've had is that our creative professional market, graphics houses, ad agencies, et cetera, have been in the toilet for the last several years, more so than the general market has. And so our creative pro market's been suffering. Secondly, education, we've made some mistakes, and as you know, education is down the last 3 years. So
but some of your rivals have gained ground on you in education, right?
Well, actually, some of our rivals have gained ground primarily by taking share away from their competitors. Okay. But we've made some mistakes too. And so 2 of our 3 markets are down, are depressed. In the consumer market, we've more than doubled share in the last year.
Really?
Yeah, really.
What is your share in the consumer market?
It depends who you talk to, but it's somewhere...
I'm talking to you.
Our share of the consumer market's between 5 and 10%.
Okay, good.
Yeah. And our stores have been phenomenal. We have almost 60 retail stores open, which were the best buying experience for a personal computer on the planet, and doing quite well. We've had over 15 million people, 15 million visitors through them since we opened the first store 2 years ago.
A lot of people think, given this string of great products you've done, that, and given the iPod, that it's a portable device, that you should be making a PDA. There's constantly rumors. You're going to make a PDA. You're going to make a tablet. You're going to make a cell phone. Can we just touch on those?
Sure.
Because there's a lot of excitement around those generally in the industry. So let's just start with, say, a tablet. Are you going to make a tablet? What do you think about the tablet?
No plans at the current time to make a tablet, no.
You saw your old friend Bill Gates up here being really enthusiastic about it last night. What do you think about it?
Well, I mean, I think it's great that they're trying, but it turns out, that I would characterize it a little bit differently than Bill. Bill characterizes it as a device you can take to meetings and take notes. Well, I see people with notebook computers at every meeting I go to taking notes. So I don't think that's what it's about. I think it's about handwriting input versus a keyboard. And handwriting recognition's been tried over and over again, and even when you get it really good, it turns out Apple, believe it or not, after all that pain that they went through with Newton, has the best handwriting technology in the world now. It's way better than anything else.
Really?
Yeah. You know the problem? It doesn't matter. It's really slow to write stuff. You could never keep up with your email if you had to write it all out. And so it turns out that people want keyboards. I mean, when I started in this business, one of the biggest challenges was people couldn't type. And one day we realized that death would eventually take care of this. And so people know how to type now. And if you do email of any volume, you've got to have a keyboard. And so if you've got a device that's a...
I don't know, Bill said it's really easy to do a handwritten email last night. So we look at the tablet and we think it's going to fail. You think the tablet's going to fail?
Yes, we do.
What about the tablet as a reading device? Because my own feeling, having tested it, I didn't give it a great review, but what I said was, and I believe this, its actual strength in a funny way is that it's a much more natural way to read, like a long web article or a long Word document or PDF file or something, than a clamshell.
It's really true. If you've got a bunch of rich guys who can afford their third computer, they got a desktop, they got a portable, and now they're going to have one of these to read with, that's your market.
Okay.
People accuse us of niche markets.
What about a PDA? I mean, I would point out for those who don't have an iPod that actually they have, even though it's designed hardware and software as a music player, you can put your calendar and your contacts on your iPod now, and you've even improved that a little with the new ones. What about a PDA?
Well, you know, my email address is out there, and so I get an email every time somebody, you know, goes to the bathroom in Iowa. And I get a lot of emails about that. Over the years, we have tremendous pressure to do a PDA, and we thought about this a lot. And what we decided was that we believe that for everyone using for all the universe of people using a PDA, 90% of them really just want to get the information out. Only 10% want to do major input on this thing. And so if what they really want is a repository for data that they can get out, occasionally putting in a phone number or correcting an address, we believe the cell phones are going to do that. And we saw that several years ago. We just see the curve of cell phones going like this. You're going to have a phone in your pocket, so that's going to have to be the device that carries this information. And we started working, rather than doing we didn't think that we were going to be successful in the cell phone business because of the carriers. I mean, we're not the greatest at selling to the Fortune 500, and there's 500 of them, 500 CIOs that are orifices you have to go through to get to the Fortune 500. In the cell phone business, there's five. You know, in this country. So, you know, we don't even like 500. We'd rather run an ad for millions of people and let everybody make up their own mind. You can imagine what we thought about 5. And so we decided we might not be successful in that business. So what we've done instead is we've written, I think, some of the best software in the world to start syncing data from your personal computer onto your cell phone. Anyone who's used a Palm knows that there are two great revolutions in the Palm. The one was the focused function and form factor, but the second was the dock, the cradle, that allowed you to sync it to your PC so that if you lost your Palm, you didn't lose your life. You could buy another one, stick it in there, and refresh it, and off you'd go. And so we believe that mode is what cell phones need to get to. That's the mode we copied for the iPod, as an example. Where your personal computer is your hub, all your data is safe and secure there. You can enter it on a big screen with a real keyboard, et cetera, sync it to your phone. You can still make changes on your phone. It's a little painful with that small keyboard, but you can do it on occasion. And yet, for 90% of the people plus, they're going to be able to get all the information they want out of that phone. And that's the direction we see it going.
Well, so are you working with Nokia and Motorola and the other cell phone handset makers?
Yeah, absolutely.
Trying to make this happen?
Absolutely.
Because really, unless you're talking about a combo like the Trio, which has a lot of PDA DNA in it,
right.
A regular phone, the calendar and the address book in there are terrible.
Yeah, I know they are terrible, but they're improving at a fairly rapid rate right now. So I think they're going to get there.
So all of your fans who are predicting a PDA, predicting a
right, we chose instead to do the iPod instead of a PDA. That was that we put our resources behind that.
What about how many iPods have you sold, by the way?
Well, I don't know. As of today, we'd sold 700,000 a few months ago, and the new one's on fire. So I suspect we'll, probably sell our millionth iPod sometime later this summer.
What's the next step for that? Is it video? Is it photos? I mean, why shouldn't I want to? There are already a couple on the market that can show videos and photos.
Yeah, we've clearly got stuff like that in the lab too. And it turns out that, watching movies on a tiny little screen is really not very much fun. And you again get into that fight between form factor, you want to put it in your pocket, and you want a giant screen to watch movies on. So right now, the best way to watch movies on a portable device is to buy a personal computer and stick a DVD in it. And that's the most popular way to watch DVDs when you're away from your television. And I'm not convinced that people want to watch movies on a tiny little display they carry around.
And
so
photos, your family photos?
Photos are nice. What you really want to be able to do is plug it into the television when you get somewhere and show somebody your photos on your television. That kind of stuff will come over time. But one of I paraphrase Bill Clinton when I am in meetings like this and just keep saying, it's the music, stupid. It's the music. It's about music. People have, what's interesting is that, putting photos on an iPod, putting movies on an iPod, these are speculative markets. Will people want to watch movies on a little portable device? Who knows? Somebody will try, we'll find out. But music's been around for a long time. Good tens of thousands of years.
Prior to 1977.
Yeah, prior to 1977. And it will be around for an awful long time. And people have had portable ways to listen to music for a long time.